Supreme Magus, Web Novel, Chapter 593, Overlapping Images Part 1. A royal pardon was a get-out-of-jail-free card for any crime non-punishable by the death penalty. The crown granted a few of them every year to their most loyal servants for their outstanding results, and becoming a great mage was one of them. As Vilna realized the mortal danger she was in, tears filled her eyes, forcing her to blink. When she opened them again, Lith had disappeared as if she had been talking to a shadow the whole time. Please, be nice to her. Zinnia went through a lot, and I think that bastard of Falmug might have taken it out on her after my last visit. Let me do the talking, Camilla said, too worried to notice that she was alone. Don't worry, you lead and I'll follow. Lith blinked behind her. Thanks to his enhanced senses, he had no problems hearing her words from a distance. Camilla unlocked the door, hating that house more with each passing second. The tea room was exactly as she remembered it, a mix of order and hypocrisy. The white sofas and armchairs looked like they had never been used. The center of the hardwood table in the middle of the room had been carved out and replaced by a crystal slab. The vases decorating the room along with white cotton doilies were still there, yet all the flowers had disappeared. Zinnia was sitting on the same chair she had used during Camilla's last visit. Her face was turned toward the sunlight coming from the glass-paneled east wall, as if she was looking at the sky. Zin, I'm back, Camilla said. Cammy, you shouldn't be here. The last time Falmug was so enraged by how you strong-armed Vilna to enter the house that now he doesn't buy me flowers anymore. Why do you insist on making my life miserable? Zinnia said. Her voice was filled with sorrow and it cracked before she could finish her phrase. Don't say that, Zin. You have always been a terrible liar. What did he do to you? Camilla ran to her sister, hugging her. They both wept, bringing to Lith's mind the memories of when he and Carl did the same after one of them had suffered a heavy beating. Forgive me, Cammy, I didn't mean those things. I just want to hear my children again. Memory and reality overlapped as the ground trembled. For a moment, I hated her because she reminded me of my mother. Always whining about how giving birth ruined her life and blaming us for Ezio's behavior. When she accused Camilla, I thought she meant it, but she had just been instructed about what to say. He thought. He beats her legs so that even if they have guests, they can't notice the bruises. That's why she didn't stand up during your last visit, Lith said with a stone-cold voice as he turned around. Camilla noticed his gesture and lifted Zinnia's gown up, revealing many black and blue spots shaped like a horsewhip. How did you know? She asked, her voice full of shock and fury. My brother, Orpal, would do the same thing to me when I was a child. Camilla lowered Zinnia's gown, allowing Lith to get close to her. Zinnia, this is Lith Verhan, my boyfriend. Lith, this is Zinnia, my sister. Nice to meet you. Do you mind if I heal you? Lith needed all the help Solus could give him to take the edge off his voice and not raise the house to the ground. The pleasure is all mine. As for the healing, please help me. Lith chanted a quick gibberish before placing his hand on Zinnia's shoulder and using invigoration on her. All of her bruises and injuries disappeared. He found some poorly healed fractures and fixed them too while he checked her condition. You really are as good as Cammy says. It's been ages since I had no difficulties breathing. The naive happiness she expressed while blurting out the gravity of the damages her ribcage had suffered made Camilla go pale and Lith grit his teeth. This is wrong. No one should be happy just because they stopped suffering. That's not life, Lith thought. I have bad news, Camilla. Zinnia's problem doesn't lie in her eyes. She completely lacks the optic nerve. The what? Both sisters asked. Most healers knew nothing about anatomy, let alone layman. It links the eyes to the brain. Without it, one cannot see. It's a big problem, like missing a whole arm. I hoped your sister's case would be simple, but for something like that, I need to consult an expert. I won't mess with Zinnia's brain until I'm 100% sure I know what I'm doing. I never said I want to be treated. Zinnia's voice was full of fear. Really? Do you want to stay here? With that man? Lith was angry, but Zinnia wasn't afraid of him. His outrage wasn't cruel like that of her husband. It sounded more like a fellow victim who had yet to give up on hope. He took your children away from you, your legs, and your sister. How long will you allow him to feast on your soul? Nonetheless, his words hurt. Tears streamed down Zinnia's face again and Camilla put herself between them. Zin, I know I'm asking a lot of you, but please, reconsider your decision. Lith went a little overboard, but he isn't completely wrong. Before you had no choice, whereas now I'm offering you one. We have waited for a long time, but things only got worse. Falmug got worse, his violence always escalating. I've lived the past few years afraid to receive a call telling me that you died at his hand. If you can't find the strength to do it for yourself, do it for the kids and for me. Camilla said. I know you're right, Cammy, but I'm too scared. What if Lith fails? Even worse, what if he succeeds? Zinnia asked. We'll think about it when the time comes. Right now, all I need is your consent. I need to know that you are willing to fight this battle with us. Be honest with me, Cammy. Is this world really worth fighting for? Or is Mogar just full of misery? I never understood how people like me can be born just to suffer whereas people like Falmug are free to destroy everything they touch without suffering any consequence. I'm too old and too tired to fight, Cammy. It's not worth it. Zinnia shook her head. Yes, Mogar is unfair. Every world is unfair, Lith said with a stone-cold voice. The only way to survive is to make life unfair to your advantage. If you don't fight for yourself, no one will. He placed his hands to the sides of Zinnia's head, activating 2 Tier 5 light magic spells, Scanner and Chisel. He used the tendrils of mana chisel created to connect the life force of her brain with that of her eyes, using mana as a temporary conduit. Zinya's pupils moved around the room as light and colors flooded her vision. Zin, said a beautiful woman in front of her. Zinya couldn't believe her own ears. The woman sounded like her sister. She raised her hands, touching the woman's face and recognizing her on the spot. Is that really you, Cammy? Zinya asked. Yes, Zin, it's me. I've brought you your favorite flowers. Camilla took a bouquet of fresh silver wattles out of her dimensional amulet. Their vibrant scent filled her nose and their color was a marvel to her eyes. Webnovel, Chapter 594, Overlapping Images Part 2. Zinya started to cry again, but this time out of joy. She appreciated even her newfound vision turning blurry because of tears. Anything was better than the eternal night she had been trapped in. Zin, only you can decide if Mogar is worth fighting for. Even at your age, there are so many things you can still experience. There are so many things that I want to share with you. I won't force you to do anything, just know that no matter your choice, I'll always be by your side. Camilla said. Zinya turned her head to look at Lith's face. She didn't know much about magic, but she had guessed that the moment he would remove his hands from her head, she would lose her sight again. Your trick is quite a low blow. How can I say no after you showed me all this? After seeing the pain and anguish in Cammy's face? Yet I'm grateful you did it. I've been stuck in this cage for so long that it had trapped even my mind. If you think you are likely to succeed, I'd be grateful to have you as my healer. You are the first man I've ever seen, so I have no idea if you are handsome or not. Yet the way Camilla describes you fits like a glove. You're terrifying and kind at the same time, Zinya said. I'll take that as a compliment. If there's one thing you have to learn is that in life there's no such thing as a low blow. Only victory and defeat. Prepare for my next trick. Lith conjured an ice mirror in front of Zinya, to allow her to watch at her reflection. Is this my face? She said. I'm so pale and thin. I must look terrible. Zinya moved her eyes from the mirror to Camilla, trying to make a comparison. Believe me, for someone in your situation, you look gorgeous. Camilla said. I just wish the children were here. I'd give everything to see them, even just once. Zinya sighed. First things first, Lith took a piece of paper out of his pocket dimension. This is the legal form that grants me the status of your personal healer. I'm aware you are illiterate, so you can just draw an X where Camilla points you to. Then, we'll need 3 witnesses. Cammy? Camilla ran out of the room with a huge smile on her face. I can't believe Zin accepted to get treated so fast, nor that Lith would bring a legal document that grants him the authority to protect her. This is all too good to be true, she thought while knocking to the neighbors' doors. It took her less than a minute to come back with 2 men and 1 woman. They all signed the document and then Camilla showed Zinya how an X was shaped. Just a few words before you leave, Lith said while never leaving Zinya's side. If you think even for 1 second to go back on your word and deny to have signed the document, remember this. The moment you do that, you'll become my enemies and I'll treat you as such. If anything happens to Lady Sarda, I'll hold you responsible for it in front of the law and the Mage Association. His voice was calm, yet the 3 started to shake uncontrollably. Lith wasn't using killing intent to not scare Camilla, but his gaze was more than enough to scare normal humans to death. There was no warmth in them, just a silent promise of pain. They nodded and gave him a deep bow, their heads almost touching the floor before rushing out of the door. I'm sorry, but I can't keep the spell up any longer without the risk of hurting you. Your body can't handle so much mana at once, Lith said, waiting for Zinya to nod before he interrupted his spells. Since everything had been settled in a matter of minutes, they had the time to enjoy tea with some pastries together. Camilla loved seeing her sister's real smile, instead of the fake one she had worn during her last visit. Seeing Zin eat and talk so much filled her heart with happiness. All of her questions about their personal life, especially as a couple, not so much. Oh, gods, I've never introduced one of my boyfriends to her before. This is so embarrassing, she thought while Lith dodged a question about having children. When they left, Camilla was still on cloud 9. There were so many things that she wanted to tell Lith, but there was no time. He had to warp them to the city's warp gate to not make her arrive late at work. I'll see you tonight, she said with a radiant smile before leaving. Lith called the greatest expert of body sculpting he knew, Professor Zoger Vaster. What a pleasant surprise, Lith. What can I do for you? Vaster replied immediately, as always. Unlike Minower, he often did freelance jobs and unlike Minower, he was reliable. Lith has learned everything he knew about body sculpting from him and he had seen Vaster perform miracles with that spell. Lith explained to him the situation and requested his help. I would be glad to help, but you caught me in a bad moment. The academy is about to open and I'm swamped preparing my lessons and filling old paperwork. Can you wait for a couple of days? I should be free by then, Vaster said. Yes, of course. Thanks for your help, Professor. I'd like to show you the patient's status. I think it might help you understand her problem. Lith placed his amulet on a table and started to focus. He conjured a real-size hologram of Zinya's head, peeling off 1 layer at a time until only the eyes, the brain, and the skull remained. Good gods, that's almost as good as visiting the patient in person. Almost, Vaster said while recording everything to look at it later in detail. It's a difficult case indeed, but it's treatable. I'll send you all the reading material my assistants can find. The rest I'll explain to you in person. Vaster hung the call. Lith informed Camilla and then went back to Lucia. I've done all I could for Zinya. I've even alerted the local authorities of her situation and added her to my patient list at the Mage Association. I have a lot of free time until evening, time to try Bloomforge out. He thought. Zekel was still smelting the first batch of orichalcum, so there wasn't much else Lith could do. He wanted to put to the test both the forge mastering techniques he had created before working on the new Skinwalker armor. One of them is bound to be better than the other. Another thing I could do is a replica of Orion's cloaking ring. That way Solus and I could move separate ways when necessary without anyone noticing her. Excellent idea, yet isn't an orichalcum ring wasted for a single spell? She asked. No, if it allows us to make a better and more powerful ring that completely hides your life force. Safety is priceless. Once they got back inside the tower, Lith took out the second hammer and performed the bonding spell to fuse it with 2 cyan magic crystals. Only when the monocirculatory systems of the hammer had stabilized did the real forge mastering begin.